Welcome to the second video to Christmas. Kelly and I were chatting, what does Jamaica and the Oregon coast have in common?
You might think not a lot. So we're here to tell you that they are two destinations that we have traveled to during the Christmas season.
I am Peter.
And I am Kelly. And this is our four-legged companion, Maya.
We are a couple from Edmonton, Alberta.
And we are here to share some authentic tales of our married life together.
As we strive to honor God through the trials and the triumphs.
And deepen our relationship with one another along the way.
To start us off, let's talk about Jamaica. We went to Jamaica for Christmas, I think 2015.
It was for our honeymoon.
Yes.
That we had postponed a year.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd ever been anywhere tropical for a vacation. I've been overseas before, but I'd never really been anywhere tropical for a vacation, like an all-inclusive resort. So It was a real treat.
So part of the Jamaica Christmas time, it was really, I won't say weird, but different. And just because we've never been away from Canada during Christmas time, so to be in a place where there is no snow really caught me off guard. And don't get me wrong, being in a tropical location is pretty nice.
And they did have a lot of lights. The palm trees were wrapped in Christmas lights, and they did have a couple spruce Christmas trees, artificial of course, but did have some up on display. That was pretty nice.
Yes. And I think some of the, if I remember correctly, just, we did stay at an all-inclusive. So there was as much food and as much drink that you could handle, and I think the food was pretty delicious. There was a lot of buffet style and a lot of like the different meal times for breakfast, lunch, supper, and Kelly and I actually got to spend some time for supper just by ourselves. So it was a little romantic little supper that we had, and they set it all up for us. And so I don't quite remember what we had, but I'm pretty sure it was pretty delicious. So
I think my favorite food from that trip would have been the jerk chicken. I thoroughly enjoyed eating that.
Yeah,
that's sort of a Jamaica staple, from what I understand.
Yeah, there was so much food though, and so many different types of food. It was delicious, just delicious. That's all I remember. So
a couple of our adventures that we ventured out on in that trip was scuba diving was one of them. I was so excited because scuba diving has been on my bucket list for as long as I can remember. So I was very excited about it. And they got us all suited up, and we had to do kind of like a little training workshop in the pool at the resort before we could go out into the ocean. And I was super excited. I was ready to go. And then as soon as I had to go underwater with the gear on, I got so claustrophobic and freaked out. I couldn't believe it. I almost didn't make it. Like, our instructor was like, you need to be able to equalize, with your nose, and you need to be doing that. And I had a hard time focusing on that because I was just feeling so claustrophobic all of a sudden when I was under the water with all that gear. But Peter was a great encouragement to me, and
it took quite a while and quite a few attempts to say, you got this, just slow down, breathe, relax. But when you're claustrophobic, like you're mentioning, it's just everything kind of collapses in on you, and it's just very, very stressful. But
I got past it, and we went out, and and I thought, okay, well that's it. That's the worst of it. Now it's all smooth sailing and fun adventures. But when we were down in the ocean under the water, all of a sudden there was a guide with us. So it was the guide, Peter, and myself, and we were down there, and he was helping us to feed fish and encounter different things. And then all of a sudden, I don't know how it happened, But I looked to my left and I looked to my right, and there was nothing in front of me, nothing beside me, no Peter, no guide. I just went a 360 circle looking, and I could not see any of them. I thought, how on earth could I have lost them? I have barely moved. And so I was a little terrified there for what seemed like an hour, I'm sure, but it was probably just, 30 seconds or a minute, and then one of them reappeared.
5 or 10 seconds, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I've been scuba diving before, so I'm pretty comfortable breathing in the water and just swimming around. So it might have been at that time when the guide came and he just wanted to double check on myself and see how I was making do. But I could see Kelly in the distance.
It's your fault. You abandoned me.
I could see you in the water and everything. But it was pretty interesting because he did give us some food, and you just kind of throw it up into the water. Not going to say the air, the water. And all these fish would just come and basically swarm trying to nibble and eat the fish food and stuff. So really cool experience for sure. So
it definitely was, yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of different adventures throughout that trip. So the scuba diving was really fun, and we did go to a very popular place when we were in Jamaica called Dun River Falls. And that's a place where, because it was pretty close to our hotel and everything, but you have hopefully a very good pair of water shoes that you can use, but you basically walk up the waterfalls. And there's like different levels and different means, but there was a lot of people back then, so we each held hands and kind of made our way up the falls and stopped and took pictures and
helped people up when they wiped out.
Yep.
Because the rocks and everything were slippery. They're covered in water.
Yeah.
So it was some tricky business getting up those falls, but definitely enjoyable, beautiful.
Yes. Very, very nice for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Some of the other smaller kind of adventures or things we took part in that the resort was offering was they had a martini bar. And I've never had a martini before this ever in my life, and so it was all new to me. But they had these extraordinary flavors, so I ended up having a chocolate martini, and boy, was that good.
Yeah, and I don't quite remember the martini bar or too much, but I do remember the main bar that we stayed at is right at the pool. So you swim up to the bar. And we had this bartender that was always there, and I think I remember his name was Brian. And he got to know us pretty good, and we just kept saying, make us something with this or whatever. So and then he'd come up with some kind of creation, and we just swam up to the bar and had the drinks that way. So a lot of fruit drinks that I didn't really care for, but it was okay. But
yeah, speaking of drinks, I think it was our first full day there. We spent a lot of time in the pool because I'm a water baby. I love being in the pool, and but I made sure that I was drinking a lot of water. So every time I had like any alcoholic beverage afterwards, I would have a glass of water. And I had sunscreened up really good because I didn't want to burn. I didn't want anything to ruin the trip. But Peter was above some of those things. And so that evening, at the end of the first day, my poor hun was doubled over in the bathtub with sunstroke, chucking some cookies.
I don't know about cookie chucking, but
I think
I think I might not have drank as much water as you, so I probably did get sunstroke. So
yeah. But he recovered quick.
Yeah, it was a good time, great experience, and Jamaica.
That's Jamaica.
Yeah, there's a lot more memories there, but it was very interesting during the Christmas time, because the one thing I remember the most about the whole trip during Christmas is they don't really celebrate Christmas Day in Jamaica. It's more Christmas Eve that they celebrate. And that's when they have their big parties and music and just celebrating in general. And that kind of took me off guard because we're Christmas Day celebrating people, and so it was very different and very, very fun because the partying having Christmas Eve, but then Christmas Day came around and the staff probably cut in half. It slowed down quite a bit compared to Christmas Day, or Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So that was kind of
It was a lounging day.
It
was kind of a chill in the hammock day. Yeah. So that's Jamaica. So our second destination that we traveled to during the Christmas season was to the Oregon coast to visit my aunt.
And that was a very unique trip to begin with.
Oh, yes.
One of the earlier on trips that Kelly and I took together as a married couple, and her passport was still in her old name,
My
last
maiden name, yeah.
And so when I booked the tickets and everything, I just chose our last name. And by the time we got to the airport and was boarding, they called us up and said, yep, there's an issue. We can't proceed on this flight with Kelly. So we got separated at the airport.
My ticket was in my married name and my passport was in my maiden name. So, I told Peter, I says, you know what, just go, because your ticket's fine, just go, because chances of us getting on another flight together are going to be less than me just getting on a flight. You know, I could catch the next one, I was thinking. I'd traveled quite a lot because I'd spent quite a bit of time overseas. And almost all of the time that I travel by air, something happens. So I wasn't overly concerned. I mean, it was an annoyance, but I think Peter was a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm
flustered.
I like things to be in order. So this has happened. Oh, we need to get there by this time, and which is probably an hour earlier than we really need to be. And we wait. And I don't mind waiting and hanging out as long as we get through security and get through waiting for it to board and not having to rush, not having to, it'll wait for us. And then, so I need to make sure that we need to go, we need to be there. But yes, we got separated. So I continued on and flew to another airport and waited there. And then
it was your layover.
Yeah, it was my layover.
While you were there, I went back to check in at the airport, Edmonton Airport, and just got my ticket sorted. And the flight right after, the one that I couldn't board, I missed, was full. And that would have gotten me there at the same destination as Peter, our halfway point or whatnot, prior to our second flight. But it was full, so I wasn't able to do that. I think you went to, where did you go to? Was it Calgary? No, that was the final destination, was Portland. But you flew...
It might have been
Seattle. That's what it was. You flew to Seattle and then, the layover and then on to Portland. Yeah. So, but they couldn't get me to Seattle. So I ended up getting on a plane to Vancouver. And then from Vancouver, I was going to be able to get to Portland. So, so I went to Vancouver. Yeah. And Peter went to Seattle.
Yeah. So I think it was in Seattle. I'm waiting because I had the wait anyways for the plane to go. And get a call saying, "Oh, I'm in Vancouver and everything's okay. I'll meet you in Portland." And so that's all good. But then I find out that Kelly's living up her life in Vancouver at the airport, while I'm, concerned and hope she's okay. And
I went for a little manicure pedicure and had a little sit down massage in one of those chairs that they have in the airport. And because, like I said, I am accustomed to things not going right while traveling by air. There usually is something. And then, of course, there was another hiccup when we were to arrive in Portland, and then it's a 2.5 hour drive from there to my aunt's home on the coast. which we planned to do. But then my Vancouver flight got delayed, so I didn't actually get into Portland until much, much later. So we ended up having to stay the night there.
Which was okay.
It was okay, yeah.
By the time Kelly got to Portland and we're together again, it was part of our schedule at that point now. Then, so we started anew the next day and made it to the coast and had a pretty nice Christmas time in Oregon. Another without snow kind of Christmas.
Yes, a little bit of rain here and there, but
but when you could walk to the beach in 10-15 minutes and just walk down the beach and you get the wind on you and you're right on the ocean, it's pretty different and very nice.
We went to the beach for a nice walk Christmas morning.
Yeah.
So one of the nice things about my aunt's home, in her backyard, often there are deer just wandering through her backyard. There are deer. And recently she found out that they love apples. So now what we got to witness her doing while we were there, she'd take out a big bundle of apples and have them cut and the seeds removed, and she would call out, apples, apples, and the deer would just come close, really, really close up to her house and, eager to eat these apples. And it was just really, really amazing to see them. And we would see them infrequently, just when we wake up in the morning, look out the window, and there they are, just grazing in her backyard. And very, very, very nice to see that and just be connected to nature in that way. And
that's true.
Yeah. And then I think one of my favorite spots, it's called the South Jetty, and it's about a 10-15 minute drive.
Yeah, it's pretty close
from my aunt's house. And it's basically, there's a rock face, kind of like a hill of rocks, and then the ocean is on one side, and there's sand and grass on the other side, where you kind of go and can climb up the rocks. And I could just sit there for hours. I just love watching the waves come and crash against the rocks, and just seeing, for me, water and the ocean in particular is where I connect the most with God. I just see his majesty, and it's just really, really incredible. So
pretty powerful just to have the waves slam up against the rocks, and the rocks are huge. They're massive. And just to have that jetty and then the water just come and splash super high up in the air, and just to be part of that right there in the moment, pretty nice for sure. So just a different way for Christmas experience. For sure. Yeah. So I think that is all the time we have right now.
Yes.
So we'll see you on the next video.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.